Hey, and welcome back. This is video number 7. We're going to talk about how to write good article content or outsource the article content creation. So obviously you want to have good, high quality article content that is written. And you also want to have longer content. So I don't recommend that you write shorter articles, like 300-word articles. You probably want to get something like longer, that's 1,000 word or more, unless you're actually bundling it with tons of images and videos and having a mixture of content. So if you are going to have a mixture of images and videos, which I'd recommend maybe about 700 words or more. The longer the better, and that seems to be the case to get some high engagement and high stick rates. Now, if you want to write your own articles, then you either know how to do it or you don't. If you don't, then I'd recommend that you go to a place called ezinearticles.com, and you can find articles that are written specifically towards your niche, and you can find how they're written in terms of audiences, and you can see how they're written so you can get an idea of how to write your own articles and emulate them. Now, I don't recommend copying them because you want to avoid plagiarizing, but you can emulate them in the sense that you can get an idea of how they're laid out, how they are written, what kind of jargon they're using to write to a specific audience. So, Ezine Articles is still a good site to find great high quality articles because they actually review each and every article. So let's say, for example, health and fitness, and you're looking for headaches and migraines. So if you take a look at a couple of these, you can actually get an idea of how they're written, the type of audience that might be reading it, and the type of wording that they might appeal to. So it gives you a good idea of, you can use bullet points, you can have bullet points that explain different points in that article. Could be something like the top 5, top 10 different ways to cure headaches or migraines and things like that. And just list out the 5 to 10 different points and then elaborate on them. So this is basically what this guy has done. And of course, at the end, you can give a call to action that tells them exactly what they can do. Now, let's say, for example, that you don't have a lot of time. You have money, but you don't have a lot of time, and you prefer to outsource this to somebody on a consistent basis. Now, there are many different sites out there that would allow you to hire somebody, but here's exactly the way I do it, and this is not rocket science at all. And in fact, I'm going to show you exactly the way I do it. The way I do it is first I hire a writer off of Odesk.com. There are many other different sites that you can use. You can use Fiverr.com to find somebody, but I like to stick with Odesk simply because I can find somebody who is willing to work for me for a long period of time. And in addition to that, I found Fiverr. On Fiverr.com, you can find good writers, but in terms of finding somebody who will stick with you for a long period of time, that's just my experience that I found that Odesk seemed to be the best place. Now, freelancers, in other words, go here to find work that they can do for long periods of time. It's not kind of like a one-off thing and I leave. It's more of a long-term, I stick with you, you hire me, you pay me consistently. I might stay with you for, a couple months to a year. So depending on how you treat them as well. But I like to go to Odesk.com. You don't have to be logged in. You can click on writing and translation and figuring out the type of content that you want. Now, you have to pay close attention to this because you need to know, do you want technical writing? Do you want website content? Do you want blog and article writing? Do you want sales copywriting? You want translation, creative writing, and so forth? Because there are different types of people in these different areas. So forth, like creative writing. You find somebody who is creative in technical writing. Person that writes technical articles may not necessarily be creative. Vice versa. So you want to make sure that you find the right person for the job. Now, if you go to, let's say, for example, I've got a technical blog, and I need technical writing done. Let's say, for example, on WordPress. So, or a specific programming language. So if I go here, normally what I'll do is I will choose that I want them to at least have 4.5 or above. In terms of writers, I want somebody who has perfect ratings, not necessarily perfect, but 4.5 and above. Hourly rate, I would say below $15 or below $20. I don't really want to find somebody who is too low, because I found too low, the actual quality drops. Now, that's not to say for every single person out there, but that's just something that I found. Any hours, I would say at least 100 hours. You want to be picky. When it comes to writers, be picky. That's fine. Be as picky as you need. Any location, because it's technical writing, I don't really need a specific location. So from that point on, I can actually type in, let's say, for example, WordPress. So I want somebody who is specializing in WordPress, but also in that category of writing. So I might need to reselect this. So WordPress, subcategories, technical writing. And there we go. So now you just had to type this in first, but now I can see who has writing and editing skills or technical writing skills in relation to WordPress. Now you still need to do your due diligence. Now, when you see somebody that has a $35 hourly rate, it doesn't necessarily mean that your fixed rate or whatever your end cost is going to be super high. Sometimes these people are willing to negotiate with you if you especially order a good amount of articles. So what I would do is I would just start to open these people, and I would log in, take a look at their portfolio, and see whether or not how they write is actually good or not. So you have to do your due diligence. You can't just look at the feedback and say, okay, I'm going to hire these people. Now, you also want to look at these tests that are taking, like especially spelling and vocabulary and basic English skills and WordPress. We can see that she's above 85%, which is really good. Especially WordPress. That's the area that we want to tackle. Now, vocabulary, 95% above, 86% above. That's what we're looking for. Any other tests are not really something that stands out to me. Like, even if she had Adobe Photoshop and it was like 60%, I don't really care, because I really want somebody with WordPress specialization. Now, from this point on, you would need to look at their portfolio, look at their articles, and see if that's something you like. You have to post a job before you can actually contact people on Odesk, but I'd say create a job, contact these people, set your job to be invite only so that nobody can apply to your job unless you actually contact them. This enables you to give you, some control over who you actually invite, and everything passes through you because you want the best quality content as much as possible. What I do is, after I've hired somebody and I really like what I see, I get them to write one article first. I don't promise any long-term work until we have completed a job and they have done a really good job. So don't promise anyone anything. Once they have given you the article, you need to still give it to a proofreader. So from that point, I head on over to Fiverr.com because it's only $5 to hire a proofreader. And I find specific people. Navy Writer is a good person. And you can do a search for Navy Writer, and you can do a search for Nikki H. I've personally used these and have to say that they're really good. Or if they're too busy, you can always go to Fiverr, type in proofread, and find somebody that direction. But that gives you 2 people that you can start with. Then from that point on, what I'll do is I'll actually go to Copyscape and make sure that all the content is not on the internet. In other words, this is just my quality assurance to make sure that Everything is legit and everything is written from scratch and it's not copied and pasted from the internet. And most of these article writers will do that. They will actually put it in Copyscape to ensure that there is no duplicates. So from that point on, I've shown you every step of the way. That's how I get a good quality article created and written. And from that point on, I will get that person to constantly create articles, let's say, for example, on WordPress, and continue to do so until I have a good amount of content. And that way, I can focus on other products and other sites that I can create.